A mafia boss on a routine flight notices a terrified girl wearing a neck collar sitting beside a man who controls her every breath. When she flashes a silent distress signal, Dante Varelli is forced to choose between staying invisible or breaking the only rule that keeps him alive: never get involved. But he's seen this kind of fear before, and last time he ignored it, someone died. Now the predator thinks he's won, but he doesn't know the girl just caught the attention of the most dangerous man on the plane. If you want to see how far mercy can take a man built for violence, stay until the end. Drop a like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Mpwach. The thing about airports is that nobody actually sees anyone. Tens of thousands of people moving through the same space at the same time, and they might as well be ghosts. Dante Varelli learned that lesson early. Airports are perfect for disappearing, which makes them perfect for hunting. He stands near Gate 47 at Chicago O'Hare, black cashmere coat unbuttoned, dark slacks pressed sharp, leather shoes buffed to a cold shine. 34 years old and built like someone who spent a lifetime balancing violence with restraint. Not large, just dense. Compact muscle wrapped tight under expensive fabric. Dark hair combed back. Clean-shaven jaw. Eyes that don't blink as often as they should. Most people think he's a lawyer, maybe finance. Nobody thinks mafia boss. That's the point. Dante watches the boarding line shuffle forward with mechanical patience. Flight 2847 to LaGuardia. Business as usual. A sit-down with the Benedettis family over territory disputes in Lower Manhattan. Nothing that requires blood, just leverage. Dante prefers leverage. Blood is expensive. But then he sees her. The girl moves through the gate entrance like someone trying not to exist. 20, maybe 21. Thin frame buried under an oversized gray hoodie and faded jeans. Pale skin. Dark circles under her eyes deep enough to suggest weeks without real sleep. And around her neck, a white cervical collar, the kind they give you after whiplash or strangulation. Beside her walks a man in his mid-40s. Gray suit, polished shoes, wireframe glasses. Neat hair. The kind of face that belongs in a dentist's office or behind a desk at an insurance company. Unremarkable, forgettable. Except for his hand. It rests on the girl's arm, not rough, not violent, just there. Constant. Every time she shifts her weight, his fingers tighten. Every time she looks away, he leans closer, whispering something. She nods quickly, too quickly. Dante knows control when he sees it. He also knows fear. The girl's eyes flick toward the terminal exit once, just once, before the man's grip tightens and her gaze drops to the floor. She says nothing, doesn't resist, doesn't even flinch. But Dante sees the bruise under her jawline where cheap concealer didn't quite cover the purple. He watches them board ahead of him. The man guides her down the jetway with the same persistent hand on her arm, and Dante feels something cold settle in his chest. It's familiar, old, something he thought he buried 6 years ago under concrete and regret. He follows them onto the plane. Dante's seat is 14C aisle. Always aisle. The girl and the man are 6 rows ahead in 8A and 8B. Window and middle. Dante can't see them from where he sits, but he doesn't need to. He's already memorized the man's face, the way he leans in too close, the way the girl shrinks into herself like she's trying to fold into the upholstery. The flight attendant starts the safety demonstration. Nobody watches. They never do. Dante pulls out his phone, opens an encrypted message thread, and types. Need a background sweep. Sending photo. He angles his phone camera toward row 8, zooms in slightly, and snaps a clear shot of the man's profile. Then he sends it to Marco DeLuca, his head of security, and the only person Dante trusts with tasks that require discretion over speed. The reply comes 2 minutes later. Who is he? Dante types back. Don't know yet, find out. He pockets the phone and leans back, watching the cabin settle. The man in row 8 orders a scotch before takeoff. The girl orders nothing. She sits perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, staring at the seat in front of her like it holds the answer to a question she's not allowed to ask. Dante knows that look. He's seen it before. The flight takes off smooth. No turbulence. Clear skies. The cabin settles into the low hum of recycled air and muted conversations. Dante ignores the flight attendant when she offers him a drink. He doesn't drink on planes, doesn't drink much at all anymore. Alcohol makes people sloppy, and Dante built an empire on precision. An hour into the flight, the man in row 8 gets up to use the restroom. The moment he's gone, the girl's entire body changes. Her shoulders drop half an inch. Her breathing deepens. She shifts slightly toward the window, pressing her forehead against the glass like she's trying to disappear through it. For exactly 43 seconds, she exists without surveillance. Then the man returns, and she snaps back into position. Dante watches this happen 3 more times over the next hour. Each time the man leaves, the girl breathes. Each time he returns, she stops. It's a pattern. Patterns tell stories. And this story is making Dante's jaw tighten in ways he doesn't like. 2 hours into the flight, the man finally falls asleep. Chin tilted back, mouth slightly open, hands folded over his stomach. Deep sleep. The kind people slip into when they feel safe. The girl doesn't move for the first 10 minutes. Then, slowly, so slowly Dante almost misses it, she turns her head toward the aisle. Her eyes scan the cabin, desperate, searching. And then she sees Dante watching her. For exactly 2 seconds, they lock eyes. Hers are brown, wide, terrified. She doesn't blink. Neither does he. Then she does something Dante hasn't seen in 6 years. She raises her right hand slowly, palm facing out, and tucks her thumb across her palm. Then she folds her 4 fingers down over the thumb, forming a closed fist with the thumb trapped inside. It's subtle, quick, over in less than 3 seconds. But Dante recognizes it immediately. It's a distress signal. Silent. Designed for situations where speaking is impossible. Originally created for domestic violence survivors who needed to communicate danger during video calls without alerting their abusers. And this girl just used it on him. Dante's pulse doesn't spike. His breathing doesn't change. But something ancient and ugly wakes up inside his chest. He holds her gaze and nods once, slowly, deliberately. I see you. The girl's eyes fill with tears. Then the man beside her shifts in his sleep, mutters something incoherent, and his hand drops onto her thigh. She freezes instantly. The tears vanish. Her face goes blank, and Dante realizes he's just made a promise he can't take back. The flight lands at LaGuardia 40 minutes later. Dante doesn't move until everyone ahead of him is deplaned. He watches the man guide the girl up the aisle with that same constant hand on her arm. She glances back once, just once, and her eyes find Dante again. He nods. She faces forward and disappears into the jetway. Dante follows at a distance, phone already against his ear. Marco answers on the first ring. Got something. Talk. Marcus Heller, 46. Insurance adjuster from Evanston. Divorced 8 years ago. 1 daughter, college-aged. No priors. No red flags. Looks clean. He's not clean. Marco pauses. You sure? Dante watches Marcus guide the girl through the terminal toward baggage claim. Run deeper. Check his digital footprint, social media, forums, anything that doesn't show up on a standard sweep. That'll take time. Then start now. He ends the call and keeps walking. At baggage claim, Marcus stands close to the girl while they wait. Too close. His hand never leaves her lower back. She stares at the carousel like she's memorizing the pattern of luggage circling endlessly. Dante positions himself 30 feet away, pretending to check his phone. He's good at blending in. Spent years perfecting the art of being overlooked. Then Marcus leans down and whispers something into the girl's ear. She nods. But Dante sees her jaw clench. A black Honda Civic pulls up to the curb outside. Marcus loads 2 suitcases into the trunk, opens the passenger door, and waits for the girl to get in. She does. No hesitation, no resistance. But before the door closes, she looks directly at Dante one last time. Her lips don't move, but her eyes scream. Dante watches the Civic merge into traffic and disappear toward the expressway. Then he pulls out his phone and makes another call. Luca, I need a tail on a black Honda Civic, Illinois plates. He rattles off the number from memory. Don't lose him. Don't engage. Just follow. Luca Santoro, one of Dante's best shadows, confirms without asking questions. Dante walks toward the parking garage where his car is waiting. Behind him, the terminal buzzes with travelers rushing toward their next destination. Nobody notices the man in the black cashmere coat. Nobody ever does. Dante drives a Mercedes S-Class. Black. Tinted windows. Clean registration under a shell company that doesn't trace back to him. He keeps his hands relaxed on the wheel, his speed exactly 3 miles above the limit. Not enough to attract attention, just enough to keep pace. Luca calls 12 minutes into the drive. They're heading into Queens, residential area. Looks like they're going home. Stay on them. Copy. Dante ends the call and merges onto the expressway. His mind runs through possibilities. Marcus Heller, insurance adjuster, divorced, 1 daughter, no priors. But the girl in the cervical collar isn't his daughter. So who is she? Marco calls back 23 minutes later. Found something. Go. Heller's active on a private forum. Took some digging, but I cracked his login. The place is a cesspool. Men trading advice on how to groom vulnerable women. Heller's been posting for 3 years. Dante's knuckles tighten on the wheel. What's he saying? Marco hesitates. You don't want details. Yes, I do. Another pause. Then Marco reads it like he's pulling shrapnel out of a wound. He talks about training, calls it conditioning, posted photos of bruises, brags about isolation tactics, uses the term acquisition when referring to women aging out of foster care. Dante's voice stays flat. The girl? No photos. But the timeline matches. He posted 4 months ago about starting fresh with someone new. Where are they now? Luca just sent the address. Queens. Residential street near the old rail yard. Dante's phone buzzes with the location. He doesn't respond to Marco, just ends the call and drives faster. The house is a narrow 2-story tucked between overgrown lots and chain-link fences. Peeling yellow siding, cracked driveway. No neighbors close enough to hear anything. Dante parks 2 blocks away and walks the rest. It's 6:47 p.m. The sun is setting. Streetlights flicker on one by one. Luca is already there, leaning against a telephone pole, pretending to smoke. He nods when Dante approaches. He's inside. Girl too. Lights on in the kitchen. Curtains drawn. Anyone else? No. Dante studies the house. 1 entrance in front, 1 in back through the overgrown yard. Windows on the 2nd floor, all dark except 1. Call Enzo and Matteo. Tell them to cover the back. Nobody leaves. Luca makes the call. Dante stands there for exactly 60 seconds, watching the house, watching the shadows move behind the curtains, watching the light in the upstairs window flicker once, then go still. Then he starts walking toward the front door. Dante doesn't knock. He rings the doorbell like someone selling insurance. Footsteps inside. Heavy. Unhurried. The door opens. Marcus Heller stands in the doorway wearing khakis and a polo shirt, barefoot, relaxed. Then his eyes land on Dante, and every muscle in his body locks. Recognition hits him like a freight train. You, Marcus breathes. Dante smiles, cold, empty. Me? Marcus tries to close the door. Dante's hand shoots out and catches it. The wood groans under the pressure. We need to talk, Dante says quietly. I don't know what you think you saw on that plane, but I saw enough. Marcus's face goes pale. She's my niece. Family business. You have no right. Dante steps forward, forcing Marcus back into the house. The door swings shut behind him. The hallway smells like reheated pasta and stale air. Cheap furniture, thin carpet, a staircase leading up to the 2nd floor. And at the top of the stairs, the girl appears. She's changed into sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt. The cervical collar is still around her neck. Her hair is pulled back in a messy ponytail. When she sees Dante standing in the hallway, her entire body goes rigid. Elena, Marcus says sharply, go to your room. Elena. Dante finally has a name. Elena doesn't move. Now, Marcus snaps. She takes 1 step back, then another, but her eyes stay locked on Dante. It's okay, Dante says to her. His voice is calm, steady. I'm not leaving. Marcus laughs, high-pitched, desperate. You don't know what you're doing. She's troubled. She ran away from a treatment facility in Chicago. I'm bringing her home. Liar. The word hangs in the air like a blade. Marcus's face twists. Get out of my house. No. I'll call the police. Dante pulls out his phone and holds it toward Marcus. Go ahead. Marcus stares at the phone, then at Dante. His hand twitches toward his pocket, but he doesn't move. Call them, Dante says again. Tell them a stranger forced his way into your home. See what happens when they run your name through their system and find the forum posts, the photos, the messages. All the blood drains from Marcus's face. What are you talking about? Marcus Heller, username Shepherd93, active for 3 years. 12 posts about acquisition strategies. 4 about isolation techniques. 7 with photos attached. Marcus stumbles backward. That's not... It is. Silence. Then Marcus's expression changes. Hardens. The mask of civility cracks completely. She's mine, he says flatly. And for the first time since entering the house, Dante lets his own mask slip. His eyes go dead. Empty. No, he says quietly. She's not. Mami. Elena watches from the top of the stairs as the man from the plane stands between her and Marcus like a wall made of bone and ice. She doesn't know who he is, doesn't know why he's here, doesn't know if this is real or just another kind of trap. But for the first time in 4 months, Marcus looks afraid. And that's enough. Elena, the stranger says without looking at her, do you have identification, passport, birth certificate, anything with your name on it? Her throat closes. He has them, locked in his office. Where's the office? Second door on the left upstairs. The stranger doesn't move, just keeps his eyes locked on Marcus. You're going to give me the key, the stranger says, and then you're going to sit on that couch and not move until I tell you to. Marcus's hands curl into fists. You can't just... Yes, I can. Something in the stranger's voice makes Marcus go still. Then slowly, Marcus reaches into his pocket and pulls out a key ring. He holds it out like it's burning his palm. The stranger takes it without breaking eye contact. Then he turns and walks up the stairs. When he reaches the top, he pauses beside Elena. Are you hurt? He asks quietly. She shakes her head. Lies. He studies her for a moment, then nods. Stay here. Don't go downstairs. He moves past her toward the office. Elena stands frozen, listening to Marcus breathing heavily in the hallway below, listening to the sound of a key turning in a lock, listening to the stranger moving through Marcus's things with surgical efficiency. And for the first time in months, Elena wonders if hope is something real people are allowed to have. Dante finds the documents in a locked filing cabinet. Elena Vale, birth certificate, social security card, old school ID from a high school in Naperville, all stuffed into a manila folder marked personal. He also finds a folder marked training. He doesn't open it, just takes both folders and walks back downstairs. Marcus is sitting on the couch exactly where Dante left him. His hands are shaking. His face is gray. Dante drops the personal folder on the coffee table. She's taking these, he says. Marcus doesn't respond. Dante leans down until they're eye level. Here's what's going to happen, Dante says quietly. You're going to forget Elena Vale exists. You're going to delete every file you have on her, every photo, every message, every post, and you're going to check yourself into a psychiatric facility for evaluation. Or what? Dante smiles. It's the most terrifying thing Marcus has ever seen. Or I make sure everyone in your life knows exactly what you are. Your ex-wife, your daughter, your employer, your neighbors, every single person who thinks you're harmless. Marcus's breathing turns ragged. And if that's not enough, Dante continues, I'll make sure the men I work with understand that you're someone who preys on vulnerable girls. And I'll let them decide what happens next. The color drains completely from Marcus's face. Please, he whispers, please don't. Then do what I said. Marcus nods frantically. Dante straightens and walks back toward the stairs. Elena is still standing at the top, clutching the railing like it's the only thing keeping her upright. Pack your things, Dante tells her. You're leaving. Her eyes widen. Where am I going? Somewhere safe. I don't have anywhere. You do now. She stares at him for a long moment. Then she turns and disappears into one of the bedrooms. Dante waits. Marcus doesn't move. 5 minutes later, Elena returns with a single duffel bag and the folder of documents clutched against her chest. Dante gestures toward the front door. She walks down the stairs carefully, eyes locked on Marcus the entire time. When she reaches the bottom, Marcus opens his mouth like he's about to say something. Dante steps between them. Don't, he says flatly. Marcus closes his mouth. Elena walks past him and out the front door. Dante follows. Behind them, Marcus sits on the couch in his empty house, shaking like a man who just watched his entire world collapse. And somewhere in the darkness outside, Luca, Enzo, and Matteo are already cleaning up the pieces. Quote. Dante drives Elena to a brownstone in Brooklyn. Quiet street. Mature trees. Brownstones with flower boxes and iron railings. It looks like the kind of place where people raise families and drink coffee on Sunday mornings. Elena sits in the passenger seat, silent, staring out the window. The duffel bag is on her lap. The folder is tucked inside it. Where are we? She finally asks. Somewhere Marcus will never find you. She doesn't respond. Dante parks in front of a 3-story brownstone with warm light glowing through the windows. He gets out, walks around, and opens Elena's door. She hesitates. You're safe, Dante says quietly. I promise. Elena looks at him with eyes that have seen too many broken promises to believe in new ones. But she gets out of the car anyway. Dante leads her up the front steps and rings the bell. The door opens. A woman in her 50s stands in the doorway. Gray-streaked dark hair pulled into a loose bun. Kind eyes. Worn jeans and a wool cardigan. She looks like someone's favorite aunt. Her name is Vivian Mercer, and she runs a private recovery house for women escaping situations the law can't fix fast enough. Vivian takes one look at Elena, and her expression softens. Come in, sweetheart, she says gently. Elena glances back at Dante. He nods. She steps inside. Vivian puts a hand on Elena's shoulder, light, careful, and guides her into the warm interior. Before the door closes, Vivian meets Dante's eyes. Thank you, she says quietly. Dante doesn't answer, just turns and walks back to his car. As he drives away, he catches one last glimpse of Elena through the brownstone window. She's sitting on a couch. Vivian is handing her a cup of tea. She looks small, fragile, but alive. Dante pulls onto the main road and disappears into the night. And somewhere in Queens, Marcus Heller sits alone in his house, realizing that mercy from a man like Dante Varelli is the most dangerous gift he'll ever receive. Because mercy comes with conditions, and Dante never forgets. Dante doesn't sleep that night. He sits in his penthouse overlooking the East River, watching the city lights blur against the black water. The apartment is minimalist, steel and glass, sharp angles, no photographs, no personal items, nothing that suggests a life beyond the work. A bottle of whiskey sits unopened on the table beside him. He doesn't touch it. Instead, he thinks about Elena's eyes when she walked through Vivian's door, the way she looked back at him like she was memorizing his face in case she never saw it again. He thinks about the other girl too, the one from 6 years ago. Her name was Sarah Callahan, 23, waitress at one of Dante's legitimate restaurants in Midtown. Bright smile, nervous energy. She dropped plates sometimes when the dinner rush hit, apologized too much, flinched when men raised their voices. Dante noticed, but he didn't act. She had a boyfriend, controlling type, showed up at the restaurant sometimes to check on her, put his hand on her neck when he kissed her goodbye. Not romantic, possessive. Sarah never said anything, just smiled and said everything was fine. 3 weeks later, she was dead, strangled in her apartment. Boyfriend fled to Pennsylvania. Caught 2 days later bragging to a friend in a bar. Dante went to the funeral, stood in the back, didn't speak to anyone, and he swore it would never happen again. The memory sits in his chest like a stone. His phone buzzes. Marco's name lights up the screen. Dante answers without greeting. Heller checked himself into a psychiatric facility in Westchester 2 hours ago, Marco says. Voluntary commitment. Signed the paperwork himself. Good. You want surveillance on him? No, he's not the problem anymore. Marco pauses. Then what is? Dante leans forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the dark water below. The girl asked me why I helped her. What'd you say? Nothing. You gonna tell her the truth? No. Marco exhales slowly. Dante, you can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone, just the ones I see. The line goes quiet for a moment. You hearing from the Benedettis? Marco asks, changing the subject. Meetings tomorrow, noon, Lower East Side. You need backup? Always. Marco ends the call. Dante sits alone in the darkness, watching the city breathe. And somewhere across the river, Elena Vale is learning what it feels like to sleep without fear for the first time in months. Fight. Elena wakes up at 6:14 a.m. in a room she doesn't recognize. For exactly 3 seconds, panic floods her system. Then she remembers. The plane. The signal. The stranger with the dead eyes who walked into Marcus's house like he owned it. She's in Brooklyn now. In Vivian's house. In a small bedroom with pale blue walls and white curtains that let in soft morning light. The bed is clean. The blankets are heavy. The door has a lock on the inside. Elena tested the lock 4 times before she finally fell asleep. She sits up slowly. The cervical collar is still around her neck. She hasn't taken it off in 2 weeks. Marcus put it on her after he strangled her, said it was to help her heal. But Elena knows the truth. It was to remind her what happened when she disobeyed. She reaches up and touches the Velcro strap. Then she rips it off. The relief is immediate. Air hits her skin. Her neck feels light, exposed, vulnerable, but free. She drops the collar on the floor and doesn't look at it again. Back. Downstairs, Vivian is already awake. The kitchen smells like fresh coffee and something baking. Elena moves carefully through the hallway, listening for sounds of other people. But the house is quiet. Vivian stands at the stove wearing the same worn cardigan from last night. She glances up when Elena enters. Morning, Vivian says gently. How'd you sleep? Okay. It's a lie. Elena barely slept, but she doesn't know how to explain that sleeping without someone listening for her breathing is harder than it sounds. Vivian pours a cup of coffee and sets it on the table. Sit. I made muffins. Elena sits slowly, like the chair might collapse. The coffee is hot, strong, real. Vivian sits across from her with her own cup. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then Vivian says, You don't have to tell me what happened, but if you want to, I'm here. Elena stares into her coffee. How do you know Dante? Vivian's expression shifts slightly. He helps fund this place, has for years. Why? Because he thinks he owes something to women the system fails. Elena looks up. Does he? Vivian considers the question carefully. I don't know, but I know he doesn't stop until you're safe. Elena's throat tightens. What if Marcus comes looking for me? He won't. How do you know? Vivian meets her eyes. Because Dante Varelli doesn't make promises he can't keep. Elena wants to believe her, but belief is a muscle she hasn't used in months. What happens now? Elena asks. Now you rest, you eat, you breathe, and when you're ready, we figure out what comes next. Elena nods slowly, but she doesn't feel ready for anything. Dante meets the Benedetti family at a restaurant in the Lower East Side called Lombardi's, old school Italian. Red check tablecloths, brick walls, the kind of place tourists think is authentic and locals know is a front. The restaurant is closed for a private event. That means Dante and the Benedettis have the entire space to themselves. Antonio Benedetti sits at the head of the table. 62 years old, silver hair slicked back, expensive suit, gold cufflinks. He built his reputation on being reasonable. That means he only kills people when negotiation fails. Beside him sits his son, Nico. 39. Restless energy, too much cologne. Nico wants his father's empire, but he doesn't have the patience for the work. Dante sits across from them with Marco on his left and Luca on his right. Enzo and Matteo stand near the door. Nobody's armed, that's the rule. But everyone knows where the guns are if the rules break. Dante, Antonio says warmly. Good to see you. Antonio. They shake hands. Firm grip. No warmth. Nico doesn't offer his hand. Just nods like Dante is beneath acknowledgement. Antonio gestures for everyone to sit. A server appears with espresso and biscotti. Nobody touches the food. So, Antonio says, leaning back in his chair, let's talk about Rivington Street. Rivington Street, a 3-block stretch of commercial real estate in lower Manhattan. Prime location, high traffic, worth millions if developed correctly. The Benedettis own 2 blocks. Dante owns 1. And Nico wants all 3. My son believes consolidation would benefit both families, Antonio says carefully. Dante sips his espresso. Your son believes I should hand over my property for less than it's worth. Nico leans forward. We're offering fair market value. No, you're offering 60% of fair market value. The market's volatile. The market's fine. You're just greedy. Nico's face flushes. Watch your mouth. Dante doesn't blink. Or what? Antonio raises a hand. Gentlemen, we're here to negotiate, not fight. Then negotiate, Dante says flatly. Offer me what the property's worth, or stop wasting my time. Nico's jaw clenches. You think you can talk to us like that? I just did. The tension in the room thickens. Marco shifts slightly in his seat. Luca's hand drifts closer to his waistband. Antonio watches Dante carefully. You're in a difficult position, Dante. You don't have the manpower we do. If this turns hostile, you lose. Maybe, but I'll make it expensive. Antonio smiles faintly. Is that a threat? It's a fact. For a long moment, nobody moves. Then Antonio nods slowly. Fine. 80% of market value. Final offer. 90. 85. Dante considers, then nods once. Done. Nico looks like he wants to flip the table, but Antonio raises his hand again and Nico stays silent. Good, Antonio says. Paperwork will be ready by the end of the week. Dante stands. Marco and Luca follow. Pleasure doing business, Dante says without emotion. He walks toward the door. Enzo and Matteo fall in behind him. As they step outside into the bright afternoon sun, Marco mutters, "That was too easy." Dante doesn't respond, because Marco's right, and Dante knows Antonio Benedetti doesn't do easy. 3 days later, Elena starts therapy. Vivian arranges everything. A quiet office in Park Slope. A woman named Dr. Iris Chen, who specializes in trauma recovery. 50-minute sessions. Twice a week. Elena hates it immediately. Dr. Chen is patient, calm. She doesn't push, doesn't ask leading questions, just sits in her chair and waits for Elena to speak. Elena doesn't. For the entire first session, Elena stares at the floor and says nothing. Dr. Chen doesn't seem bothered. That's okay, she says gently. You don't have to talk until you're ready. Elena wants to scream that she'll never be ready, but she doesn't. The second session is worse. Dr. Chen asks Elena to describe a safe memory, something from before Marcus. Elena tries, but every memory is contaminated, even the good ones, because Marcus was always there in the background, waiting. I don't have any, Elena says finally. None? No. Dr. Chen nods slowly. Then we'll build new ones. Elena doesn't believe her, but she keeps coming back anyway. But Dante doesn't see Elena for 2 weeks. He tells himself it's because she needs space, because Vivian is handling it, because he's done his part. But the truth is simpler. He doesn't know what to say to her. On the 15th day, Vivian calls him. She's asking about you, Vivian says. Dante is in his office reviewing contracts. He stops. What's she asking? Who you are, why you helped her, whether you're coming back. What did you tell her? That you're a complicated man who does good things for complicated reasons. Dante almost smiles. That's generous. It's true. Vivian pauses. She wants to thank you. She doesn't owe me anything. I know, but she needs to do it anyway. Dante leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. I'm not good with gratitude. I know that too. Come anyway. She ends the call before he can argue. Dante sits in his office for a long time. Then he gets up and drives to Brooklyn. Elena is sitting on the front steps of the brownstone when Dante arrives. She's wearing jeans and a gray sweater. Her hair is loose. The bruise on her jaw has faded to yellow. She looks healthier, stronger, but her hands are still shaking. Dante parks across the street and walks over slowly. He stops a few feet away, giving her space. "Hey," he says. "Hey." For a moment, neither of them speaks. Then Elena says, "Vivian told me you don't usually visit." "I don't." "Why not?" "Because the women who come here need to forget the men who hurt them. I don't want to be another man they have to remember." Elena nods slowly. "I'm not trying to forget you." "You should." "Why?" Dante looks at her carefully. "Because I'm not a good person, Elena. I just did one good thing. That's one more than most people." He doesn't have an answer for that. Elena stands up and walks down the steps until they're face to face. She's shorter than him by half a foot, but she doesn't look small anymore. "Thank you," she says quietly. Dante nods once. "Can I ask you something?" Elena says. "Yeah." "Why did you help me?" "Really?" Dante's jaw tightens. For a long time, he doesn't answer. Then he says, "Because I didn't help someone once, and she died." Elena's eyes widen slightly. "I'm not a hero," Dante continues. "I'm just trying not to be the villain twice." Elena stares at him like she's seeing him clearly for the first time. "You're wrong," she says. "About what?" "You think one good thing doesn't make you good. But maybe that's all any of us get. One good thing at a time." Dante doesn't respond. Elena steps back toward the brownstone. "I'm going to get better. I'm going to build a life. And I'm going to remember that you're the reason I got the chance." She turns and walks inside. Dante stands on the sidewalk watching the door close. Then he gets back in his car and drives away. And for the first time in 6 years, the weight in his chest feels a little lighter. But the peace doesn't last. 4 days later, Marco calls Dante at 2:37 a.m. "We have a problem." Dante is already awake. He sits up. "Talk." Marcus Heller checked himself out of the facility yesterday, against medical advice. Dante's blood goes cold. "Where is he?" "We don't know. He's off the grid. No phone, no credit cards, no digital footprint. Find him." "We're trying, but Dante, there's more." "What?" "He's not alone. Someone bailed him out, paid the fees, provided transportation." "Who?" Marco hesitates. "We're still working on it, but whoever it is has resources." Dante stands and walks to the window. The city is dark except for scattered lights in distant buildings. "Increase security on Vivian's house. I want eyes on it 24 hours. "Already done." "And Marco?" "Yeah?" "If Marcus gets within a mile of Elena, I want to know immediately." "Copy." Dante ends the call and stares at his reflection in the glass. He knew this wasn't over. Men like Marcus don't let go. They just wait. And now someone is helping him. Stupids. 2 days later, Elena is walking back from therapy when she sees him. Marcus. He's standing across the street from the brownstone, watching, waiting. Elena freezes on the sidewalk. Her breath catches. Her vision tunnels. Marcus doesn't move, just stares at her with the same calm expression he always had, like she's a problem he's calculating how to solve. Elena's legs lock. She can't move, can't breathe, can't scream. Then a black SUV pulls up beside her. The passenger window rolls down. Luca leans out. "Get in," he says urgently. Elena doesn't hesitate. She yanks the door open and throws herself inside. The SUV peels away from the curb. Elena looks back through the rear window. Marcus is still standing there, watching, not chasing, just watching. "Did you see him?" Elena gasps. "Yeah," Luca says grimly. He's already on the phone. "Boss, she saw Heller, confirmed visual. I'm bringing her to you now." Elena's hands shake violently. "How did he find me?" "I don't know, but you're not going back to the brownstone." "Where are we going?" Luca glances at her through the rear-view mirror. Somewhere Marcus can't reach. The SUV speeds through Brooklyn toward the Williamsburg Bridge, and Elena realizes with cold certainty that the nightmare she thought was over has only just begun. Dante is waiting in his penthouse when Luca arrives with Elena. She steps out of the elevator looking pale and shaken. Her eyes are too wide. Her breathing is shallow. Dante walks toward her slowly. You're safe. He was there, Elena whispers. Standing right across the street, just watching. I know. How did he find me? I don't know yet, but I will. Elena's legs give out. She sinks onto the couch and puts her face in her hands. Dante nods to Luca, who disappears into the hallway to make calls. Dante sits in the chair across from Elena. He doesn't touch her, doesn't move closer, just gives her space to breathe. After a long moment, Elena looks up. You said he wouldn't come after me. I was wrong. So what now? Now we end this. How? Dante leans forward, elbows on his knees. The same way I handle every threat. I find out who's helping him. I take away his resources. And I make sure he understands that coming after you again means he doesn't walk away. Elena stares at him. You're going to kill him. No, I'm going to make him wish I had. The words hang in the air like smoke. Elena's hands finally stop shaking. What do you need me to do? Stay here. Don't leave. Don't answer your phone. Don't contact anyone. For how long? Until I tell you it's safe. Elena nods slowly. Dante stands. There's food in the kitchen. The bedroom's down the hall. Door locks from the inside. You're safe here. He starts to walk toward the door. Dante, Elena says. He stops, turns. Thank you, she says again. This time, he doesn't argue. He just leaves. Dante meets Marco in a warehouse in Red Hook at 4 a.m. The space is empty except for a metal table, 2 chairs, and a single overhead light. Marco is already there, laptop open, files spread across the table. What do you have? Dante asks. Marco turns the laptop toward him. Marcus Heller was released from the psychiatric facility by a man named Gerald Crane, 49, lawyer, specializes in patient advocacy and involuntary commitment cases. Who hired him? That's where it gets interesting. Marco pulls up another file. The payment came from an offshore account registered to a shell company in the Caymans. Whoever's funding this doesn't want to be found. Dante's jaw tightens. Someone with money. Someone who knows how to hide. Yeah, and someone who wants Heller back on the street. Why? I don't know yet, but I'm working on it. Dante stares at the files. What else? Heller's been moving around. No permanent address, no phone. But he's been spotted near 3 different women's shelters in the past week. Dante's blood goes cold. He's hunting. Looks like it. Find him. I'm trying, but Dante, this guy's not working alone anymore. Whoever's backing him has resources we don't. Dante slams his hand on the table. The sound echoes through the empty warehouse. Then we get better resources. Marco closes the laptop slowly. This is escalating fast. If we push too hard, it's going to spill into the open. The Benedettis are already watching us. If they think we're distracted, I don't care about the Benedettis right now. You should. Because if this gets messy, they're going to use it against us. Dante straightens and looks at Marco with dead eyes. Then we make sure it doesn't get messy. Well, 3 days later, Dante gets the call he's been waiting for. Marcus Heller has been spotted in Queens, near the old house, the one where Dante pulled Elena out. Dante doesn't wait. He takes Luca, Enzo, and Matteo. They drive in silence. The house looks exactly the same, peeling siding, cracked driveway, overgrown yard. But the lights are on. Dante parks 2 blocks away. They approach on foot. Luca moves to the back. Enzo and Matteo cover the sides. Dante walks straight to the front door. He doesn't knock, just kicks it open. The door crashes inward. Dante steps inside. The house is empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no belongings, just bare walls and stained carpet. Dante walks through the rooms methodically. Kitchen, living room, staircase. He climbs to the 2nd floor. The bedroom where Elena stayed is stripped clean. The office is empty. But on the wall in the master bedroom, someone has written a message in black spray paint. She was always mine. Dante stares at the words. Then his phone rings. Vivian's name lights up the screen. Dante answers immediately. Someone tried to break into the brownstone an hour ago, Vivian says, her voice shaking. The police are here. They didn't get in. But Dante? They left something on the front steps. What? A collar, like the one Elena was wearing. Dante closes his eyes. Get everyone out of that house, he says quietly. Right now. Where should we go? I'll send Marco. He'll take you somewhere safe. Dante, do it now, Vivian. He ends the call. Then he walks back downstairs and out into the night air. Luca appears beside him. What's the play? Dante looks at the house one last time. We burn it down, he says. Luca doesn't ask questions. Within 15 minutes, gasoline is poured through every room. Dante lights the match himself and tosses it through the open doorway. The house erupts in flames. Dante stands in the street, watching it burn. And somewhere in the darkness, Marcus Heller is watching too, waiting for Dante to make a mistake. But Dante doesn't make mistakes. He makes examples. And Marcus is about to become one. Mac. Elena is sitting in Dante's penthouse when she sees the news report. A house fire in Queens, suspected arson, no injuries, authorities investigating. She recognizes the address immediately. Marcus's house, the one where Dante found her. She doesn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. The elevator doors open. Dante steps out. His clothes smell like smoke. Elena stands. That was you. Yeah. Why? Because he left you a message there, and I needed to send one back. Elena's breath catches. What kind of message? The kind that says if he wants to hurt you, he has to go through me first. Elena stares at him. You're at war with him. I've been at war with him since the moment I saw you on that plane. This isn't your fight. Dante walks closer. His eyes are dark, unreadable. Yes, it is. Why? Because you flashed a signal, and I answered. That makes it my fight. Elena's throat tightens. What if you can't win? Dante's expression doesn't change. I don't lose, he says simply. And for the first time since Marcus appeared across the street, Elena believes him. But belief doesn't stop the fear. And somewhere out there, Marcus Heller is planning his next move, and Dante Varelli is waiting for him. Because this isn't about property anymore, or territory, or business. This is about a girl who asked for help in the only way she knew how, and a man who refused to look away twice in one lifetime. And when those two forces collide, someone is going to break. The only question is who. The call comes at 3:47 a.m. Dante is awake when his phone vibrates across the nightstand. He's been awake for hours, sitting in the dark, running scenarios through his head like combat simulations. Every angle, every possible move Marcus could make. But when he sees the name on the screen, his chest goes cold. Nico Benedetti. Dante answers, says nothing. We need to talk, Nico says. His voice is tight, controlled. Now. About what? About the fact that you're running a rescue operation in my territory without clearing it first. Dante's jaw clenches. I don't need your permission to stop a predator. You do when it attracts attention. Meet me at the warehouse in Red Hook, 1 hour. Come alone. The line goes dead. Dante sits in the darkness, phone still pressed to his ear. Then he stands and gets dressed. The warehouse is abandoned. Rusted metal siding, broken windows. The kind of place where bodies get buried and nobody asks questions. Dante arrives exactly on time. His car idles outside for 30 seconds while he scans the perimeter. No movement. No visible surveillance. He parks and walks inside. The interior is cavernous, empty except for a few scattered pallets and a single overhead light that flickers like a dying heartbeat. Nico Benedetti stands in the center of the space, alone. No backup. No weapons visible. That should be reassuring. It's not. You came, Nico says. You asked. Nico circles slowly, hands in his pockets. You've been busy. Burning down houses, moving women around like chess pieces, making a lot of noise. I'm handling a situation. You're making my father nervous. Dante doesn't blink. Your father's been nervous since the day you were born. Nico's face hardens. Careful. Or what? For a moment, they just stare at each other. Then Nico pulls out his phone and holds it up. On the screen is a photo. Grainy. Taken from a distance. It's Elena. Walking into Dante's building. Dante's blood turns to ice. You've been watching me, Dante says quietly. We've been watching everyone. It's called insurance. Nico swipes to another photo. This one shows Vivian's brownstone. Another shows the house in Queens before it burned. You want to know what I think? Nico continues. I think you're distracted. I think you're wasting resources on some girl who doesn't matter, and I think that makes you weak. Think whatever you want. My father thinks you're a liability. He thinks you're going to bring law enforcement down on all of us because you can't let go of some personal crusade. Dante steps closer. Then tell your father to say it to my face. Nico smirks. He doesn't need to, because I'm here to deliver a message. What message? Drop this. Walk away from the girl. Let Marcus Heller disappear, and we'll forget this ever happened. Dante's voice drops to a whisper. No. Nico's smirk fades. Excuse me? I said no. You don't get to say no. I just did. Nico's hand twitches toward his waistband, but he doesn't pull a weapon. Not yet. You're making a mistake, Nico says. I've made worse. This isn't a negotiation, Dante. This is a warning. Drop it, or we'll drop you. Dante doesn't move, doesn't flinch. Try, he says flatly. The word hangs in the air like a grenade without a pin. Nico's jaw clenches. You really want to go to war over some random girl? She's not random. Then what is she? Dante's eyes go empty. She's the line I'm not crossing again. Nico stares at him for a long moment. Then he shakes his head slowly. You're a fool, Nico says. Maybe. Nico turns and walks toward the exit, but before he leaves, he stops and looks back. My father gave you a chance. Remember that when this goes bad. Then he's gone. Dante stands alone in the flickering light, listening to the silence. And he knows exactly what's coming next. War. Elena is sitting at the kitchen table in Dante's penthouse when he returns. She's wearing one of his shirts, too big, sleeves rolled up, and drinking tea that's gone cold. She looks up when he walks in. Where were you? Meeting? With who? Dante doesn't answer, just walks to the window and stares out at the city. Elena stands and walks over. Dante, talk to me. The Benedettis know about you. Elena's breath catches. What does that mean? It means I have a choice. Drop this and let Marcus go, or keep protecting you and go to war with one of the most powerful crime families in New York. Elena's face goes pale. Then drop it. Dante turns to look at her. What? Let me go. I'll disappear. I'll leave the city. You'll never see me again. No. Dante, I said no. You can't go to war because of me. Dante's voice stays flat, cold. I can, and I will. Elena's eyes fill with tears. Why? Why would you risk everything for someone you barely know? Dante steps closer, close enough that she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Because 6 years ago, I had this exact choice, and I chose wrong, and a woman died. His voice doesn't waver, doesn't soften. I'm not choosing wrong again. Elena's tears spill over. What if you die this time? Then I die. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Elena stares at him like he's a stranger. You're insane. Probably. She turns away, wiping her face roughly. I don't want you to die for me. Then stay alive. That's all I need you to do. Elena laughs bitterly. That's all? Yeah. She looks back at him. And what about Marcus? What about the Benedettis? What about all the people who want you dead? Dante's expression doesn't change. I've been dealing with people who want me dead since I was 16. This isn't new, but it's different now. Why? Because now you actually care if you live. The words hit harder than Dante expects. He doesn't respond. Elena walks back to the table and sits down heavily. What happens next? I find Marcus. I end this. How? However I have to. Elena nods slowly. And if the Benedettis come after you? Then I deal with them too. You can't fight everyone. Dante finally allows himself a faint, humorless smile. Watch me. Detective. 2 days later, Marco calls with the break they've been waiting for. Found him, Marco says. Dante is in his office reviewing supply chain reports. He drops everything. Where? Bronx, apartment complex near Fordham Road, 3rd floor, Unit 3C. Who's with him? Nobody. He's alone. That doesn't sound right. Marcus has been moving with help, money, resources. You sure? Surveillance confirms he's been there for 3 days. Minimal movement, no visitors. Dante stands. Send me the address. Already done, Dante. This feels like bait. I know. Then why are we walking into it? Because bait only works if there's something worth catching on the other end. Marco sighs. When are we moving? Tonight. I'll get the team ready. Dante ends the call and stares at his reflection in the window. Marcus is alone, exposed, vulnerable. It's too easy. But Dante doesn't have a choice, because if Marcus is bait, the only way to find out who's holding the hook is to bite down. Check. They move at midnight. 4 cars, 12 men. Dante, Marco, Luca, and Enzo, and 8 others whose names don't matter because their job is simple. Secure the perimeter and make sure nobody leaves. The apartment complex is a decaying 6-story building with cracked brick and rusted fire escapes. Half the windows are boarded up. The front door doesn't lock. Dante and Marco enter through the main entrance. Luca and Enzo take the fire escape. The others spread out around the building like a net. Inside, the hallway smells like mold and old cooking oil. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead. A dog barks somewhere on the 2nd floor. Dante climbs the stairs silently. Marco follows 3 steps behind, hand inside his jacket where his gun rests. 3rd floor. Unit 3C. Dante stops outside the door and listens. Nothing. No movement. No voices. No sound. He looks at Marco. Marco nods. Dante kicks the door open. The apartment is empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no belongings. Just bare walls and stained carpet. But in the center of the living room, someone has set up a laptop on a folding table. The screen is glowing. Dante approaches slowly. On the screen is a live video feed, and what he sees makes his blood turn to ice. The feed shows a warehouse, large, industrial, concrete floors, metal beams, and in the center of the frame, tied to a chair, is Vivian Mercer. Her face is bruised, her hands are bound behind her back, duct tape covers her mouth. Standing behind her is Marcus Heller. He's holding a knife. Dante's vision tunnels. Then Marcus looks directly into the camera and smiles. "Hello, Dante," Marcus says. His voice comes through the laptop speakers, thin and distorted. "I was wondering when you'd find this place." Dante's hands curl into fists. "By now you've realized this was a setup," Marcus continues calmly, "and you're probably wondering how I managed to pull this off. The answer is simple. I'm not working alone anymore." The camera shifts slightly, and someone else steps into frame. Dante's heart stops. It's Nico Benedetti. Nico stands beside Marcus, hands in his pockets, looking directly into the camera with a cold smile. "Surprise," Nico says. Marco mutters a curse behind Dante. "I told you to drop this," Nico continues, "but you didn't listen. So now we're going to make you understand what happens when you ignore my family." Marcus raises the knife. Vivian's eyes go wide with terror. "You have 1 hour," Nico says. "Come to the warehouse at Pier 76, alone, unarmed. Or we kill her. Then we kill the girl. Then we kill everyone you've ever cared about." The screen goes black. Dante stares at the empty laptop. His breathing is shallow. His pulse is hammering. Marco steps forward. "Dante, this is a trap." "I know. If you go there alone, they'll kill you." "Probably." "Then we don't go. We regroup. They have Vivian." "I know. But if you die, we can't save her anyway." Dante turns slowly. His eyes are empty. Dead. "I'm going," he says quietly. "Dante, I'm going." Marco stares at him for a long moment. Then he nods. "Then we all go." "No, if I show up with backup, they kill her immediately. And if you show up alone, they kill you both." Dante doesn't respond. Because Marco's right. But it doesn't matter. Vivian is there because of him. Because she helped Elena. Because Dante dragged her into this. And Dante doesn't abandon people. Not anymore. Get Elena somewhere safe, Dante says. Somewhere the Benedettis can't find her. Where? I don't care. Just do it. Marco nods slowly. And what do I tell her? Nothing. Dante? Tell her nothing, Dante repeats. She doesn't need to know I'm walking into a death trap. Marco's jaw tightens, but he doesn't argue. Dante walks past him and out of the apartment. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Tick-tock. Dante deletes it and keeps walking. Elena is pacing the penthouse when Marco arrives. She spins around when the elevator doors open. Where's Dante? Marco doesn't meet her eyes. He's handling something. What's something? Can't tell you. Elena's voice rises. Marco, where is he? Marco finally looks at her, and what she sees in his face makes her stomach drop. No, she whispers. No, what happened? They took Vivian. Dante's going after her. Elena's knees almost give out. Who took her? The Benedettis and Marcus. Elena's vision blurs. They're working together? Looks like it. Where did Dante go? Marco hesitates. Elena, where did he go? Pier 76, but he went alone, and it's a trap. Elena grabs her jacket. Then we have to stop him. No, he told me to get you somewhere safe. I don't care what he told you. Marco steps in front of her. Elena, listen to me. If you go there, you'll die. And if you die, everything Dante's done to protect you will be for nothing. Elena's tears spill over. I can't just let him walk into a trap. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. Marco grabs her shoulders gently. Dante made his choice. He chose to protect you. Don't take that away from him. Elena collapses against him, sobbing. Marco holds her quietly. And somewhere across the city, Dante Varelli is driving toward the one place he knows he might not leave alive. Ishin. Pier 76 is abandoned, a skeletal structure jutting into the Hudson River like a corpse's finger. Rusted metal beams, cracked concrete, broken windows overlooking black water. Dante parks half a mile away and walks the rest. No gun, no backup. No plan except survive long enough to get Vivian out. The warehouse looms ahead. Light spills from the open bay doors. Dante steps inside. The space is massive, empty except for the chair in the center where Vivian sits bound and gagged. Her eyes are swollen. Blood drips from a cut above her eyebrow. Marcus stands behind her. The knife is pressed against her throat. Nico Benedetti leans against a metal beam 20 feet away, arms crossed, watching. And standing in the shadows near the far wall are 6 men with guns. Dante stops just inside the doorway. You came, Nico says. You knew I would. Yeah, because you're predictable. That's your weakness. Dante's eyes stay locked on Vivian. She's shaking, terrified, but alive. Let her go, Dante says. Nico laughs. That's not how this works. Then tell me how it works. Nico pushes off the beam and walks closer. It works like this. You've been a problem. You don't listen. You don't follow orders. You think you're special because you've got some moral code. I don't think I'm special. I just think you're weak. Nico's smile vanishes. Weak? Yeah. You hide behind your father. You make threats you can't back up. And you needed Marcus Heller to set a trap because you're too stupid to catch me yourself. Nico's face flushes. Careful. Or what? You'll kill me? You're going to do that anyway. Nico steps closer, close enough that Dante can see the rage building behind his eyes. You're right, Nico says quietly. I am going to kill you, but first you're going to watch Marcus cut her throat. Then you're going to tell me where the girl is, and then I'm going to kill you slow. Dante doesn't blink. No. No? Elena's gone. You'll never find her. And if you think I'm going to beg, you don't know me at all. Nico's jaw clenches. Marcus, do it. Marcus presses the knife harder against Vivian's throat. A thin line of blood appears. Vivian whimpers behind the tape, and Dante does the only thing he can think of. He charges. Not toward Vivian, toward Nico. The move is so unexpected that Nico doesn't react in time. Dante slams into him, driving them both into the concrete. The impact cracks ribs. Nico gasps. Gunfire erupts. Dante rolls behind a metal beam as bullets tear through the air. He can hear Marcus shouting, Vivian screaming behind the gag. Then footsteps. Heavy. Multiple. Dante knows he's not getting out of this alive. But maybe he can buy Vivian enough time. He stands and runs toward the chair. More gunfire. A bullet grazes his shoulder. Pain explodes white hot. He doesn't stop. He reaches Vivian, grabs the chair, and tips it backward. They hit the ground hard. The impact breaks the chair. Vivian rolls free. Dante rips the tape off her mouth. "Run," he gasps. "Go, now!" Vivian stares at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Go!" She stumbles to her feet and runs toward the bay doors. Dante watches her disappear into the night. Then he turns to face the men with guns. Marcus is screaming something incoherent. Nico is back on his feet, face twisted with rage. "Kill him," Nico snarls. The men raise their weapons. Dante stands in the center of the warehouse, bleeding, unarmed, alone. And he doesn't run. Because if this is how it ends, at least Vivian got out. At least Elena is safe. At least he didn't look away. The guns fire. Dante closes his eyes and waits for the darkness. But it doesn't come. Instead, he hears something else. Sirens. Lots of them. The gunfire stops. Dante opens his eyes. Through the bay doors, he sees flashing red and blue lights. Police cars. Dozens of them. And standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the lights, is Antonio Benedetti. The old man walks into the warehouse slowly, hands in his pockets, flanked by 4 men in suits. "Enough," Antonio says quietly. Everyone freezes. Nico stares at his father. "What are you doing here?" "Cleaning up your mess." "This isn't..." Antonio Benedetti stands in the warehouse doorway like a man who's walked through 1,000 scenes exactly like this one. Gray suit pressed sharp, silver hair catching the red and blue lights from the police cars outside, face carved from stone and decades of violence. "This isn't your business," Nico says, voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Antonio's eyes don't leave his son. "Everything you do is my business. I'm handling it. You're making a mess." Antonio walks deeper into the warehouse, slow and deliberate. His men fan out behind him. And now half the NYPD is parked outside because someone called in gunfire. Nico's face goes pale. "I didn't. I know you didn't." Antonio's voice stays flat, controlled. "Because you're too stupid to think about witnesses." The words land like a slap. Marcus Heller is still standing near the broken chair, knife in hand, looking between the Benedettis like a rat trapped between 2 snakes. Dante stays perfectly still, blood seeping through his shirt from the shoulder wound. His breathing is shallow but steady. Watching, calculating. Antonio finally looks at Dante. "You've caused me considerable trouble, Mr. Varelli. Your son started it. My son is an idiot. That doesn't excuse what you've done." "What I've done? I stopped a predator from hurting more women." Antonio glances at Marcus with cold disdain. "Yes, I'm aware of Mr. Heller's proclivities. I'm also aware my son formed an alliance with him without my knowledge or approval." Nico steps forward. "He approached me, said he could help us take down Varelli. I saw an opportunity." "You saw a chance to prove yourself." Antonio's voice drops to something dangerous. "And instead you've endangered our entire operation. I was trying to... You were trying to start a war you couldn't finish." Antonio turns back to Dante. "Which brings us to the current problem. The police are outside. This warehouse belongs to a shell company that traces back to us. And there's blood on the floor." Dante's jaw tightens. "So what now?" "Now we clean this up, before it becomes something none of us can walk away from." "By clean up, you mean kill me?" Antonio tilts his head slightly. "That would be the simplest solution." Dante doesn't flinch. "Then do it." For a long moment, nobody moves. Then Antonio does something unexpected. He smiles. Faint. Almost invisible. "You have courage, Mr. Varelli. Stupid courage. But courage nonetheless." He gestures to his men. "Take Mr. Heller outside. The police are waiting for him." Marcus's eyes go wide. "What? No, you can't." "You're wanted for kidnapping, assault, and a dozen other charges. The police have an anonymous tip placing you at this location. You'll be arrested. You'll go to trial, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. But you promised. I promised nothing. My son made promises. I'm correcting his mistakes. Antonio's men grab Marcus by both arms. Marcus struggles, screaming obscenities, but they drag him toward the bay doors anyway. Wait, Marcus shouts. I have information. I can tell them about the Benedettis, about all of you. Antonio doesn't even look at him. Good luck with that. The only evidence of our involvement is your word, and who's going to believe a predator? Marcus disappears into the flashing lights outside. 30 seconds later, they hear shouting, police commands, the metallic click of handcuffs, then silence. Antonio turns back to Dante. Mr. Heller will be processed. He'll face justice. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Dante's eyes narrow. What's the catch? The catch is that you owe me for cleaning up this mess, for protecting you from the consequences of your crusade, for allowing you to continue breathing. I didn't ask for your help. No. But you received it anyway. Antonio steps closer. Here's what happens next. You stay out of my family's business. You stop burning down buildings. You stop attracting attention. And in return, I forget this entire incident ever happened. And Nico? Antonio's expression hardens. My son will be dealt with privately. Nico makes a strangled sound. Father, you're done, Antonio says without looking at him. You don't make decisions anymore. You don't negotiate. You don't even breathe without my permission. Understood? Nico's face turns red, but he nods. Antonio looks back at Dante. Do we have an understanding, Mr. Varelli? Dante's shoulder is screaming. Blood is soaking through his shirt, but his voice stays steady. One condition, Dante says. You're not in a position to negotiate. The girl, Elena Vale, she's off limits, forever. Your family doesn't touch her, doesn't look for her, doesn't even speak her name. Antonio considers this. And in return, I stay out of your way, completely. That's a significant concession. Then take it or kill me. Those are your options. For exactly 5 seconds, Antonio Benedetti studies Dante Varelli. Then he extends his hand. Deal. Dante shakes it. The grip is firm, cold. Get that shoulder looked at, Antonio says. And Mr. Varelli, don't mistake mercy for weakness. If you cross me again, there won't be a conversation. Understood. Antonio turns and walks toward the exit. His men follow. Nico trails behind, face twisted with humiliation and rage. Before leaving, Nico looks back at Dante one last time. The hatred in his eyes is pure, absolute. Dante stares back. Neither blinks. Then Nico is gone. And Dante is alone in the warehouse, bleeding and alive. Just as he... Marco finds Dante 20 minutes later, slumped against a metal beam, pressing his hand against the shoulder wound. Jesus Christ, Marco mutters, rushing over. We heard gunfire. Thought you were dead. Not yet. What happened? Dante explains in short, clipped sentences. Marcus arrested. Antonio's intervention. The deal. Marco listens in silence. When Dante finishes, Marco just shakes his head. You made a deal with Antonio Benedetti. Yeah, that's like making a deal with the devil. The devil's predictable. Antonio's worse. Marco helps Dante to his feet. We need to get you to a doctor. No hospitals, too many questions. Then we go to Sal. Sal Moretti, underground surgeon, works out of a clinic in Chinatown. No questions asked, no records kept. Dante nods. They walk toward the exit together. Outside, the police have cleared out. Marcus is gone. The warehouse is quiet again. In the distance, sirens fade into the city's endless hum. Sal's clinic smells like antiseptic and old coffee. The walls are yellowed. The equipment is outdated but functional. Sal himself is 73, hands steady as stone, face lined with decades of stitching up men who couldn't go to real hospitals. He takes one look at Dante's shoulder and grunts. Through and through. Lucky. Doesn't feel lucky, Dante mutters. You're alive. That's lucky. Sal preps the needle and thread. This is going to hurt. It already hurts. It's going to hurt more. Sal wasn't lying. Dante grips the edge of the table while Sal works. No anesthetic, no painkillers, just needle, thread, and raw nerve endings screaming. Marco stands nearby, arms crossed, watching. You gonna tell Elena what happened? Dante's jaw clenches. No. She deserves to know. She deserves to feel safe. Telling her about tonight doesn't accomplish that. She's not a child, Dante. She can handle the truth. Can she? Because last time I checked, she's been held captive for months by a predator. She doesn't need more trauma. Marco doesn't respond. Sal finishes the last stitch and cuts the thread. Keep it clean. Change the dressing twice a day. Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything you'd normally do. Sal wipes his hands on a towel. You're getting too old for this, Dante. I'm 34. In our world, that's ancient. Sal packs up his supplies. Most men don't make it past 30. You know why you have? Luck. Caution. You think before you act, but tonight you walked into a death trap unarmed. That's not caution, that's suicide. Dante stands slowly, testing the shoulder. Pain radiates down his arm. It wasn't suicide, it was necessity. There's a difference? Sometimes. Sal shakes his head. Get out of here before I charge you for the philosophy. Bullshit. Dante returns to the penthouse at 4:27 a.m. The elevator doors open to darkness. He steps inside, shoulder throbbing, exhaustion pulling at every muscle. Then the lights come on. Elena is sitting on the couch, awake, eyes red from crying. You're alive, she whispers. Yeah. Marco called. Told me what happened. Dante shoots a look at Marco, who just shrugs. Elena stands and walks toward him. Her eyes scan the blood on his shirt, the fresh bandage visible through the torn fabric. You almost died, she says. I've had worse. That's not an answer. It's the truth. Elena's hands are shaking. You walked into a trap for Vivian, for me, for both of you. Why? Dante meets her eyes. Because that's what you do. You protect people who can't protect themselves. Even if it kills you? Especially then. Elena stares at him for a long moment. Then, without warning, she slaps him. The sound cracks through the room. Dante doesn't move, doesn't react. You don't get to die for me, Elena says, voice shaking with rage and fear. You don't get to throw your life away like it doesn't matter. I didn't die. But you almost did. Tears stream down her face. And what was I supposed to do if you didn't come back? Just, what? Move on? Pretend you didn't sacrifice yourself for someone who's not worth it? You are worth it. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Elena collapses onto the couch, sobbing. I'm nobody. I'm just some girl who got trapped by a monster. I'm not worth starting a war over. Dante sits beside her, slowly, carefully. You flashed a signal, on a plane, to a stranger, because you believed someone might see you. That takes courage most people don't have. It takes desperation. It takes hope. Dante's voice softens, just barely. And hope is worth protecting. Elena looks at him through tears. You're insane. You've said that before. Because it's true. Probably. Despite everything, Elena laughs. Broken. Exhausted. But real. They sit in silence for a long time. Finally, Elena says, What happens now? Now you're safe. Marcus is in custody. The Benedettis won't touch you. It's over. Is it? Dante hesitates. Yeah, it is. Elena doesn't look convinced, but she nods anyway. What about you? She asks. What about me? What happens to you now? Dante leans back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. I go back to my life. You go back to yours. That's it? That's it. Elena's voice drops to a whisper. I don't know how to go back. I don't know what my life even looks like anymore. Then you build a new one. How? One day at a time. Elena looks at him. Will you help me? Dante turns his head to meet her eyes. I'm not a good person to build a life around, Elena. I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking if you'll help me figure out where to start. For a long moment, Dante doesn't answer. Then he nods. Yeah, I'll help. Elena exhales slowly, relief gratitude, something else he can't name. "Thank you," she says quietly. Dante doesn't respond, just sits beside her in the darkness, watching the city lights blur through the windows. And for the first time in 6 years, the weight in his chest feels like something he can carry. Cook. 3 days later, Elena moves into a small apartment in Park Slope. Vivian helps her find it. 1 bedroom, clean, safe. Her name on the lease. Dante pays the first 3 months' rent. Elena argues. He doesn't negotiate. She starts working part-time at a bookstore 2 blocks away. The owner is kind, doesn't ask questions. Lets Elena work the quiet shifts where she doesn't have to talk much. Dr. Chen continues therapy twice a week. The sessions are still difficult, but Elena keeps showing up. Slowly, she starts building something that resembles a life. Dante checks in once a week. Never stays long. Just makes sure she's okay. They don't talk about Marcus. Don't talk about the warehouse. Don't talk about the night Dante almost died. They just sit in her small apartment drinking coffee and pretending normal is something they can both learn. But normal doesn't last. It never does. 4 weeks after Marcus's arrest, Marco calls Dante at 11:47 p.m. "We have a problem." Dante is reviewing financial reports. He sets down his pen. "What kind of problem?" "Marcus Heller made bail." Dante's blood goes cold. "That's impossible. He was being held without bail." "Someone posted it. $2 million. Anonymous benefactor." "Who?" "We don't know yet, but Dante, he disappeared 6 hours ago. Didn't check in with his probation officer. Didn't go to his assigned residence. He's gone." Dante stands. "Where's Elena?" "Home. I've got surveillance on her building. She's safe, for now." "Get someone inside. I want her protected 24 hours. "Already done." Dante grabs his jacket. "I'm going to her." "Dante, wait. We don't know where Marcus is. If you go to Elena, you might lead him straight to her." Dante freezes. Marco's right. But every instinct is screaming at him to move. "Then find him," Dante says. "Now." "We're trying, but Dante, whoever posted bail has resources. Real resources. This isn't some amateur operation." "Then who is it?" "I don't know, but I have a theory." "Tell me." Marco hesitates. "Nico Benedetti." Dante's jaw clenches. "Antonio made a deal. With you, not with his son. And Nico looked ready to murder someone when they left that warehouse." Dante closes his eyes. He's using Marcus to get to Elena. And using Elena to get to me. That's what I'm thinking. Then we end this, tonight. How? We find Marcus, we find whoever's backing him, and we finish what we started. And if it's Nico, then Antonio's deal is void. Marco exhales slowly. This is going to get messy. It already is, Reconnecting. Elena is asleep when the glass breaks. She wakes instantly, heart slamming against her ribs, eyes wide in the darkness. Someone is in her apartment. She hears footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving through the living room toward the bedroom. Elena's breath comes in short, panicked gasps. She reaches for her phone on the nightstand, but before her fingers touch it, the bedroom door opens. Marcus Heller stands silhouetted in the doorway. Elena's scream catches in her throat. "Hello, Elena," Marcus says quietly. "Did you miss me?" Elena scrambles backward, pressing against the headboard. "Get out." "I don't think so." "There are people watching this building. They'll know you're here." Marcus smiles. "You mean the man in the black sedan parked across the street? He's asleep, drugged, won't wake up for hours." Elena's stomach drops. Marcus steps into the room. "You thought you were safe. You thought Dante Varelli could protect you, but he can't. Because you were always mine, Elena, and I always take back what's mine." Elena's hand shoots under the pillow. She pulls out a knife, small, sharp, the kind Dante insisted she keep close after everything that happened. Marcus stops, stares at the blade. Then he laughs. "You're going to stab me?" "If I have to. You couldn't hurt me before." "What makes you think you can now?" Elena's hands shake, but she doesn't lower the knife. "Because I'm not scared anymore." It's a lie. She's terrified, but she says it anyway. Marcus's smile fades. "You should be." He lunges. Elena doesn't think, just acts. She drives the knife forward with everything she has. The blade sinks into Marcus's shoulder. He screams. Elena pulls the knife free and runs. She doesn't look back, just sprints through the apartment toward the front door. Behind her, Marcus is howling in pain and rage. Elena yanks the door open and stumbles into the hallway. She runs toward the stairs, bare feet slapping against cold tile. Behind her, the apartment door crashes open. Marcus is coming. Elena takes the stairs 3 at a time, nearly falling, catching herself on the railing. She bursts through the building's front entrance into the cold night air and runs straight into someone. Strong hands catch her before she falls. Elena looks up. Dante. "I've got you," he says. Behind them, Marcus appears in the doorway, bleeding, wild-eyed, clutching his shoulder. When he sees Dante, he freezes. Dante steps in front of Elena. "It's over, Marcus." "No, she's mine." "She was never yours." Marcus pulls a gun from his waistband with his good hand. He aims it at Dante. "Move!" Marcus snarls. Dante doesn't move. Behind Marcus, Luca and Enzo emerge from the shadows. Guns drawn, aimed. Marcus realizes too late that he's surrounded. "Drop it," Luca says quietly. Marcus's hand shakes. The gun wavers. "Drop it," Luca repeats, "or we drop you." For a long moment, nobody moves. Then Marcus lowers the gun. Luca moves forward and kicks it away. Enzo pins Marcus against the wall, cuffing his hands behind his back. Marcus struggles. "You can't do this. I have rights." "You broke bail," Dante says flatly. "You attacked someone in their home. You're going back to prison. And this time, you're not getting out." Police sirens wail in the distance, growing closer. Marcus's face twists with rage. "This isn't over!" Dante leans close enough that only Marcus can hear. "Yes," Dante says quietly. "It is." The police arrive 3 minutes later. They take Marcus into custody, read him his rights, load him into a squad car. Elena watches from behind Dante, wrapped in a blanket someone handed her. As the car pulls away, she finally allows herself to breathe. Marcus Heller is gone. Really gone. And this time, he's not coming back. Later that night, Dante sits with Elena in her apartment while police finish processing the scene. She's still shaking, still processing what happened. "I stabbed him," she says quietly. "You defended yourself." "I thought I couldn't do it, but when he came at me, I just reacted." "That's what survival looks like." Elena looks at him. "How did you know he was here?" "Marco had surveillance. When the guard went silent, we knew something was wrong." "You got here fast." "I was already on my way." "Why?" "Because I had a feeling." Elena almost smiles. "A feeling?" "Yeah. You're a terrible liar." "I know." They sit in silence for a moment. Then Elena says, "What happens now?" "Now Marcus goes to trial, and this time he doesn't walk." "And me?" "You keep building your life. You keep getting stronger. And you remember that you're not a victim anymore." Elena's throat tightens. "What if I still feel like one?" "Then you fake it until you don't." Elena nods slowly. "And Dante?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for everything." Dante stands. "You don't have to keep thanking me." "Yes, I do." He looks at her for a long moment, then he nods once and walks toward the door. "Dante," Elena calls. He stops, turns. "Will I see you again?" "If you need me." "And if I just want to?" Dante hesitates, then he nods. "Yeah, you'll see me again." He leaves. And Elena sits alone in her apartment, surrounded by broken glass and police tape. But for the first time in months, she doesn't feel afraid. She feels free. And somewhere across the city, Dante Varelli drives through the darkness, knowing that redemption isn't a destination. It's a choice you make every single day, and today, he chose right. But in the shadows, Nico Benedetti watches the news report about Marcus Heller's arrest. And he smiles. Because this isn't over, not even close. Marcus Heller's trial lasts 6 weeks. The courtroom is packed every single day. Reporters, advocates, survivors of abuse who come to watch a predator finally face consequences. Elena sits in the gallery for every session, hands folded in her lap, eyes locked on the man who tried to erase her. Marcus's lawyer argues coercion, claims Marcus was manipulated by organized crime figures, suggests Elena fabricated her story. The jury doesn't buy it. The evidence is overwhelming. Forum posts, photos, witness testimony from other women Marcus targeted over the years, and Elena's own account, delivered in a voice that shakes but never breaks. When the verdict comes down, guilty on all counts, Marcus doesn't scream or protest. He just sits there, empty, broken. Exactly the way he made Elena feel for 4 months. The judge sentences him to 23 years, no possibility of parole for 50. Elena walks out of the courthouse into bright afternoon sunlight. She doesn't cry, doesn't celebrate, just stands on the steps breathing cold November air. Dante is waiting by the car. He doesn't ask how she feels, doesn't offer empty comfort, just opens the door and drives her home in silence. When they reach her apartment, Elena finally speaks. "It's really over. Yeah. I thought I'd feel different, relieved, happy, something. What do you feel?" Elena stares out the window. "Tired." Dante nods. "That's normal." "Is it?" "Yeah, you've been fighting for months. Now the fight's over. Your body doesn't know what to do with peace." Elena looks at him. "How do you know that?" "Because I've been fighting my whole life. And every time it stops, I feel the same way." They sit in the car for a long moment. Then Elena unbuckles her seatbelt. "Thank you," she says, "for everything." "You don't have to keep—" "I know, but I'm going to anyway." She gets out and walks toward her building. Dante watches until she's safely inside. Then he drives away. But he knows this isn't finished, because Marcus was a symptom, not the disease, and Nico Benedetti is still out there, watching, waiting. The attack comes 3 weeks later. Dante is leaving a meeting in Tribeca when the black SUV pulls alongside him. No warning, no posturing, just 4 men with guns. Dante dives behind a parked car as bullets tear through metal and glass. People on the street scream and scatter. Car alarms shriek. Marco's voice crackles through Dante's earpiece. "Shots fired. Your location. Sending backup." "Too late," Dante mutters. The gunfire stops. Car doors slam. Footsteps approach. Dante pulls his gun and waits. When the first man rounds the car, Dante fires twice. Center mass. The man drops. The others open fire. Dante rolls behind another vehicle, bullets chasing him. Then sirens. Distant but growing closer. The gunmen retreat, pile into the SUV, and peel away. Dante stands slowly, breathing hard, gun still raised. Marco arrives 2 minutes later with Luca and Enzo. They find Dante standing over the dead shooter, face expressionless. "You hit?" Marco asks. "No." "You know who sent them?" "Yeah." Marco doesn't need to ask who. "What do you want to do?" Marco says quietly. Dante stares at the body on the ground. Then he looks up at Marco. "I want to end this." Antonio Benedetti receives Dante's message at 9:34 p.m. The message is simple, direct. "Your son tried to kill me. That breaks our deal. Meet me tomorrow. Noon. The restaurant. Or I go to war." Antonio reads the message twice. Then he calls Nico. The conversation is short, cold, final. Quotes. "The restaurant is the same one where they negotiated Rivington Street months ago. Empty again. Private event." But this time there are no pleasantries. Dante arrives with Marco. Antonio is already seated at the head of the table. Nico sits beside him, face bruised, arm in a sling. Someone already punished him. Antonio gestures for Dante to sit. Dante stays standing. "You broke our deal," Dante says flatly. "My son broke our deal," Antonio corrects, "without my knowledge or approval. Your son acts on your behalf." "Not anymore." Antonio's voice is ice. "Nico has been relieved of all responsibilities within the family. He no longer speaks for us. He no longer acts for us. He is, for all practical purposes, dead to this organization." Nico stares at the table, doesn't speak. "That's not enough," Dante says. Antonio leans back in his chair. What do you want? I want your word that this ends. No more attacks. No more surveillance. No more interference in my life or Elena's. Ever. And in return, I honor our original agreement. I stay out of your business, completely. Antonio studies Dante for a long moment. You're asking me to punish my own blood for you. I'm asking you to keep your word. And if I refuse, then we go to war, and I burn down everything you've built. It'll cost me everything too, but I'll do it anyway. The room goes silent. Then Antonio nods slowly. You have my word. This ends today. How do I know you'll keep it? Antonio's eyes harden. Because I am not my son. When I make a deal, I honor it, even with men I don't like. Dante holds his gaze, then nods once. He turns to leave. Mr. Varelli, Antonio calls. Dante stops, doesn't turn around. You've made powerful enemies today, but you've also earned something rare in our world. What's that? Respect. Dante doesn't respond, just walks out. Behind him, Antonio turns to Nico, and the look on the old man's face promises a reckoning far worse than anything Dante could deliver. 2 months later, Elena starts teaching self-defense classes at a community center in Brooklyn. The classes are small, 6 to 8 women at a time. Most are survivors of domestic violence. Some are just cautious. All of them are looking for something Elena understands intimately, the feeling of being able to fight back. Elena stands at the front of the room, demonstrating basic strikes and escape techniques. Her voice is steady, clear, confident. She's not the same girl who flashed a distress signal on a plane 8 months ago. She's stronger, harder, but not broken. After class, a young woman approaches her. 19, nervous, bruise on her wrist poorly hidden under a bracelet. Can I ask you something? The girl says quietly. Of course. How did you get out? Elena knows immediately what she's asking. Someone saw me, and instead of looking away, he helped. What if nobody sees me? Elena meets her eyes. Then you make them see. You find a way to signal, even if it's small, even if it feels hopeless, because someone out there might be paying attention. The girl nods slowly. What if I'm too scared? Then you be scared, but you do it anyway, because fear doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're alive. The girl's eyes fill with tears. Thank you. Elena watches her leave. Then she gathers her things and walks out into the cold evening air. Dante is waiting across the street, leaning against his car, same black coat, same unreadable expression. Elena crosses to him. You don't have to keep checking on me. I know. But you do it anyway. Yeah. Why? Dante looks at her carefully. Because some promises don't expire. Elena almost smiles. I'm okay, you know, really okay. I know. So why are you still here? Dante's expression shifts, just slightly. Because I'm not sure I am. Elena's smile fades. What do you mean? I've spent my entire life building walls, keeping distance, making sure nobody got close enough to matter. He looks away. And then you flashed a signal, and everything changed. Changed how? I don't know how to stop caring whether you're safe. Elena's throat tightens. That's not a bad thing. It is in my world. Then maybe you need a different world. Dante looks at her. I don't know how to live in one. Then learn. One day at a time, same way I'm learning. For a long moment, they just stand there. Two people held together by trauma and survival and something neither of them knows how to name. Then Elena reaches out and takes his hand. Dante doesn't pull away. I'm teaching another class next week, Elena says. You should come watch. Why? Because you saved me. But I want you to see who I'm becoming. Dante's jaw tightens. Then he nods. Okay. Elena squeezes his hand once, then lets go. Good night, Dante. Good night, Elena. She walks away. And Dante stands alone on the empty street, watching her disappear into the Brooklyn night. 6 months later. Elena sits in a small coffee shop in Vermont. Outside the window, mountains rise green and solid against a blue sky. Inside, the air smells like espresso and fresh bread. She's moved here 3 weeks ago. New city, new job, new life. The bookstore she works at is quiet, pays enough to cover rent and groceries, gives her time to breathe. She's been going to therapy twice a week with a new counselor, someone Dr. Chen recommended. The sessions are still hard, but they're getting easier. She's started writing too. Nothing fancy, just fragments, memories, pieces of the person she used to be and the person she's becoming. She doesn't know if it'll ever become something real. A book, an article, a testimony. But it helps. The door chimes. A young woman walks in, college-aged, nervous energy, orders a coffee and sits at the table beside Elena. Elena notices the bracelet on her wrist, the way she keeps checking her phone, the way she glances at the door every few minutes like she's expecting someone. Elena recognizes that fear. For a moment, she considers saying nothing, minding her own business. Then she remembers what Dante told her. Some promises don't expire. Elena stands and walks over. "Excuse me, are you okay?" The girl looks up, startled. "What?" "I'm sorry if this is intrusive, but I noticed you seem uncomfortable, and I just wanted to make sure you're safe." The girl's face goes pale. "I'm fine." "Okay. But if you're not, there are people who can help. Places you can go, ways to get out." The girl's eyes fill with tears. "How did you know?" "Because I've been where you are." "And you got out?" "Yeah, I got out." The girl's hands shake. "How?" Elena sits down across from her. "It started with someone noticing, and then it continued with me deciding I deserved better. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You just don't know it yet." Elena reaches into her bag and pulls out a card. On it is the number for a crisis hotline and the address of a shelter. "If you need help, call this number. They'll get you somewhere safe. No judgment, no questions." The girl takes the card with trembling hands. "Thank you. You're welcome." Elena stands and walks back to her table. She doesn't know if the girl will call, doesn't know if she'll leave, doesn't know if she'll survive. But she gave her the same thing Dante gave her, a chance, and sometimes that's enough. 8 months later. Dante is sitting in his office reviewing contracts when Marco walks in without knocking. "We have a situation," Marco says. Dante looks up. "What kind?" Marco tosses a newspaper onto the desk. The headline reads, "Former Mafia Enforcer Testifies in Federal Case." Below it is a photo of Nico Benedetti in handcuffs being escorted into a courthouse. Dante reads the article quickly. Nico flipped, cut a deal with federal prosecutors, gave up everything. Names, locations, financial records. The Benedetti empire is collapsing. "When did this happen?" Dante asks. 3 days ago. Antonio cut him off completely after our meeting. No money, no protection, no family. Nico couldn't handle it, so he made a deal. "What about Antonio?" "Disappeared, probably out of the country by now." Dante leans back in his chair. "So it's over. For them, yeah. And for us?" Marco shrugs. "We're clean. Our names aren't in any of the testimony. We're ghosts." Dante nods slowly. "They survived. Again." "You ever think about getting out?" Marco asks. "Every day." "You ever gonna do it?" Dante looks at the newspaper, then at Marco. "I don't know." "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. Because I'm tired, Dante. We all are." Marco leaves. Dante sits alone in his office, staring at Nico's face in the newspaper. And he thinks about Elena, about the life she's building, about the person she's becoming, and he wonders if redemption is something you earn or something you choose. 1 year later. Dante is standing outside a community center in Vermont when Elena walks out. She stops when she sees him. Surprise flashes across her face, then recognition, then something warm. "Dante." "Elena." She walks over. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting." "You drove 6 hours to visit?" "Yeah." Elena studies his face. "Are you okay?" "I don't know." "That's honest." Seemed appropriate. Elena gestures to a bench nearby. They sit. For a long time, neither speaks. Then Dante says, "I've been thinking about what you said, about needing a different world." "And?" "I think you were right." Elena looks at him. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm getting out, selling everything, disappearing." "Where will you go?" "I don't know yet." "That's terrifying." "Yeah." Elena smiles. "But you're doing it anyway." "Yeah." "Good." They sit in comfortable silence. Then Elena says, "I got a letter last week from a woman who took my self-defense class in Brooklyn. She said she used what I taught her to escape her boyfriend. She's safe now, living in a shelter, starting over." "How does that feel?" "Like maybe I'm doing something that matters." Dante nods. "You are." Elena looks at him. "You matter too, you know, what you did for me, for Vivian, for all the women you've helped. That matters. It doesn't erase what I've done." "No, but it's a start." Dante's throat tightens. "I don't know how to be anything other than what I am." "Then be what you are, but choose what that means going forward." Dante looks at her, really looks at her. She's not the terrified girl from the plane anymore. She's grown, changed, become someone stronger than survival. She's become hope. "Thank you," Dante says quietly. "For what?" "For flashing that signal, for trusting a stranger, for showing me that looking away isn't the only option." Elena's eyes fill with tears. "Thank you for seeing me." They sit together as the sun sets over the mountains. And for the first time in years, Dante feels like maybe redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to repeat it. Yeek. 2 years later. Elena is running a nonprofit in Vermont, a small organization that teaches self-defense and emergency signaling to survivors of domestic violence. The funding comes from anonymous donors. The staff is small but dedicated. And every month, more women walk through the doors, scared, broken, looking for a way out. And Elena shows them the same thing Dante showed her. That being seen is the first step toward being saved. One afternoon, a package arrives at the office. No return address, just her name. Inside is a check, large enough to keep the nonprofit running for 2 years. And a note. Keep fighting, keep teaching, keep noticing. D. Elena stares at the note for a long time. Then she smiles and gets back to work. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, a man who used to be called Dante Virelli walks along a quiet beach. He's older now, grayer, lines around his eyes that weren't there before. He rented a cabin 6 months ago, pays in cash, keeps to himself. The locals think he's a writer, or maybe retired military. Nobody knows the truth. And that's the point. He wakes up every morning and drinks coffee on the porch overlooking the ocean. He reads books he never had time for. He learns how to cook, how to garden, how to exist without violence. It's harder than he expected. Some nights he still dreams about the warehouse, about Marcus, about the women he couldn't save. But some nights he dreams about Elena, about the life she built, about the people she's helping. And those nights he sleeps easier. He's not a good man, but he's trying to be better. And maybe that's enough. 3 years after the plane. Elena is giving a keynote speech at a conference for domestic violence survivors in Boston. The auditorium is packed, hundreds of people, advocates, survivors, allies. Elena stands at the podium, hands steady, voice clear. She tells her story. Not all of it, just enough. She talks about fear, about survival, about the moment she decided to signal for help. She talks about the stranger who saw her, who didn't look away, who risked everything to make sure she lived. And she talks about what came after, the rebuilding, the therapy, the slow, painful work of becoming whole again. We all have a choice, Elena says. We can look away when we see someone suffering, or we can notice. We can act. We can be the person who changes everything. The audience is silent. You don't have to be perfect, Elena continues. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing to see, because someone out there is waiting for you to notice them. And that moment, when you choose to act instead of ignore, that's when everything changes. The applause is thunderous. Elena steps off the stage, and in the back of the auditorium, standing near the exit, is a man in a dark coat. Their eyes meet across the crowded room. Elena's breath catches. Dante nods once, slowly. Then he turns and walks out. Elena doesn't follow, because she doesn't need to. She knows exactly what that nod means. I see you, and I'm proud of who you've become. And that's enough. 5 years after the plane. Elena is walking through an airport in Chicago. O'Hare, the same terminal where everything began. She's here for a conference, flying back to Vermont tonight. She's standing at gate 47 waiting to board when she notices a young woman sitting nearby. The woman is thin, pale, nervous, wearing a hoodie that's too big. And sitting beside her is an older man who keeps his hand on her arm. Elena's heart stops. She watches them for exactly 10 seconds. Then the young woman glances up. Their eyes meet. And Elena sees it. The fear, the desperation, the silent plea. Elena doesn't hesitate. She walks over and sits down beside the woman. "Excuse me," Elena says gently. "I think you dropped this." She hands the woman a folded piece of paper. The man leans forward. "We didn't drop anything." "I'm pretty sure you did," Elena says calmly. She meets the woman's eyes. "Check your pocket." The woman reaches into her hoodie pocket and pulls out the paper Elena slipped there. On it is written, "If you need help, nod once. I'll get you out." The woman's hands shake, then she nods. Elena stands. "Come with me." "She's not going anywhere," the man says, gripping the woman's arm tighter. Elena looks at him, and in her eyes is something cold, hard, unbreakable. "Yes," Elena says quietly, "she is." The man starts to stand, but Elena has already signaled airport security. They're moving toward them now. "Let go of her," Elena says, "or I'll make sure everyone here knows exactly what you are." The man's face goes pale. He releases the woman's arm. Elena takes the woman's hand and pulls her gently away. They walk towards security together. Behind them, the man sits frozen, trapped. And Elena realizes with perfect clarity that this is what redemption looks like. Not erasing the past, but refusing to let it repeat. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, a man who used to be called Dante Varelli wakes from a dream. In the dream, a girl flashes a signal on a plane, and this time he doesn't hesitate. This time he acts immediately. This time everyone survives. He sits on the edge of his bed, breathing slowly. Then he walks to the window and watches the sun rise over the ocean. And he knows with absolute certainty that he made the right choice. Not the easy choice, not the safe choice, but the right one. Because the world is full of people flashing signals in the dark, and someone has to be willing to see them. Someone has to be willing to act. Someone has to refuse to look away. And that someone might as well be you. The end. But not really. Because somewhere right now, someone is afraid. Someone is trapped. Someone is waiting for a stranger to notice them. And the question isn't whether that person exists. The question is whether you're willing to see them. Because the world doesn't need perfect heroes. It just needs people who refuse to look away twice in one lifetime. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything.